Audio started. Bing, bang, boom, bomb. What's David Tennant say?
The bingle bongle dingle dangle, yickety doo, yickety da, ping pong, lippy tappy too ta.
Hi friends, welcome to Vlogmas Day 2. Today we're going to be talking about some of my bookish opinions. Today's drink is a Celsius Oasis Sparkling Prickly Pear and Lime edition. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is paperbacks versus hardbacks. When I started getting into reading a lot, I didn't really care either way. I just got whatever was available, and I regret that decision for many reasons, because some of my series, specifically The Girl's Guide to Murder and The Inheritance Games, the last book is in hardcover and the rest are in paperback. I was just so desperate to see what happened next, and I mean, I was punished for my patience because they look terrible. Although I do have everything's rainbow organized, so the series aren't together. Before anybody hates on me, most of my series are over there. Got like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson's down there. We've got Dreamland Billionaire down there. We got Six of Crows down there. We got the Knock 'em Out series, and we have ACOTAR, except that two of them are holding the camera and one is being read by Nathan right now. I do have a preference, like a very specific type of book I like to get. Let me grab. I've only seen this kind of paperback in fantasy, but this is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and look at the floppiness. A little ASMR.
Hello, ASMR. So honey.
It's beautiful. You don't have to break the spine. It's nice and big. It's floppy. Dust jackets. I hate dust jackets. I'm very, that's my thing about Fourth Wing right now. I don't even know if there are paperback editions of that series, and obviously I wasn't going to wait for Iron Flame, so that's a hardcover series, but usually I do take the dust covers off. Like when I was in high school, I threw them away pretty much, but some of them are just so pretty. So I keep them on now, but if I'm reading them, I usually take them off because they'll like cut my finger, or I hate it. Next opinion is that I fully judge a book by its cover. Like, fully. If it's an ugly cover, I simply won't buy it. That's the reason I had to read The Deal by L. Kennedy on Kindle. I'll put the cover right here, but the cover, oh my gosh, it is so ugly. It is so ugly, I can't even look at it. I can't have that on my shelf. It was a very good book, and I'm pretty sure they're coming out with like more subtle covers or just better covers. I've also bought books simply for the cover, like The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd I ended up really liking, but other ones like Vinegar Girl and there's one about like the game in town or the big town game, whatever, I'll figure it out. But I bought those for the cover because they were so pretty, and they were terrible. I didn't even finish Vinegar Girl. My next opinion is that no romance book that is less than 300 pages can be more than 3 stars. And I haven't actually checked if I'm being a hypocrite about that with my own rankings, but I read a lot of pretty short romance books like The Night Shift and Do Your Worst lately, and they've been great.
It was great!
But like, I couldn't tell you anything about their families. There's no like depth to the characters, whereas Things We Never Got Over, Love in Other Words, I think is like 400 pages. My favorite like romance books are always longer than 300 pages because you actually get into the character and you get more emotionally attached. Whereas like rom-com books, I can never rate them more than 3.5 sometimes if they're like a really good one. But if it's less than 300 pages, it can't be more than 3 stars. My next opinion is that you can like a book and recognize that it is objectively bad. This is most often a thing for me with Colleen Hoover books, where some of them I can objectively look back and say that was poorly written or poorly thought out or kind of Wattpad-y, but I still enjoyed it, such as I actually think All Your Perfects is a great book, and I think it was well written, but like Heartbones, I think, looking back, I can see that it, like, the writing isn't amazing or anything, but I love that book. I love the story. I love the way it made me feel. One of my favorite books is My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey, and I can recognize that it's not like Shakespeare. It's not objectively like the best written book ever, but the way it made me feel and how fun it was, those are separate to me. Like, my star ranking is almost never involved with how good of an author the person is. It's how the book made me feel, if that makes sense. My next opinion is that I tend to reread series the same way that people re-watch TV shows. So I have some comfort books, like I've reread Beach Read. I'm planning to reread Love and Other Words. I've reread Percy Jackson, all the Percy Jackson series, Harry Potter. Have I read anything else? Oh, I've reread some of ACOTAR, more like to analyze it, but it's kind of the same thing with comfort shows. Like, I know what's going to happen, but I love the characters. I love the setting. I can see the Knock 'em Out series or the Chestnut Springs series be one that I just revisit for joy. So I do reread books, and I don't think it's weird. Another opinion I have is that if I see a book and one of my favorite authors has a review on it, like on the cover or on the Goodreads, I put a lot of stake in that. I buy books that Emily Henry says that she likes, or Elsie Silver, or stuff like that. I actually don't know how accurate that is, because once I buy it and it's on my TBR, I kind of forget about it for a while, but I do pay attention to those more than I pay attention to, like, the New York Times. If it's, like, another author I love, I will read those and use them. I saw somebody talk about, like, sharing a bookish opinion about love triangle that you think went the wrong way. The only one I can think of for me is the Inheritance Games. I have spoken about it many times on my channel, but I think that she chose the wrong person, and it pretty much ruined the whole series for me, to be honest. The love triangle is always the person that you're passionate about and the person that's the safe choice. And whenever they pick the safe choice, I get upset. I'm a Conrad girl. I'm a Grayson girl. What's another one? I'm a bad boy girl, I guess. And I did not like the way that one ended. Some popular characters that I dislike. I'll keep this one pretty short because I have like full videos about this, but I don't like Nesta from ACOTAR. I don't think that she's redeemed at all. And Violet from, I'm going to say Violet from Iron Flame, not Fourth Wing, because honestly, I feel like they're different characters. She's been pissing me off. She's making me very angry. So she's not on my good list right now, but my next opinion is, I'm not somebody who tries to guess plot points unless I'm reading a straight up murder mystery. I'm not always looking for like the twist that's gonna come. I'm an easy to please person. I'm just reading. So for example, We Were Liars was a very popular like book talk book, and I read it and I loved it, and the plot twist got me. And when people say like I totally saw the twist coming, I'm like, I can see why. Like, looking back, I can see why if I had used any constructive thinking, I might have been able to get there, but I don't like to use it because I like to be surprised. Okay, next opinion is that spice for the sake of spice doesn't ruin a book, but it can make the couple less believable. I love spice as much as the next person, and I do think there is like a time and place, and smut for smut's sake, go for it. It's fine. I like it, but there are times in books, like in Twisted Hate, where the spice makes the couple less believable because it feels like it's only about spice. The same thing happened with Violet and Xaden in Iron Flame, when all she could ever talk about when they weren't together was how hot he was and how much she wanted to. It's just like, okay, what else do you like about this person? It's like that Swan Princess, you're beautiful, and what else? What else is there?
You're beautiful.
Thank you. But what else?
What else is there?
That's what some of it does for me. Some authors can do it, some authors can't. My next opinion is about cracking spines, and my opinion is that I can't have an opinion anymore because I'm a hypocrite. I don't crack my spines anymore, and I don't like it because it makes the book look ugly, but that was a trial and error opinion. I was on these like family reunions over the summer for like over 2 weeks, and I brought books, and I was never just like sitting and reading. I was like out on the beach or on a couch somewhere. Like, I always broke the spines, especially for like things we never got over and By a Thread by Lucy Score, like those big floppy books. And I regretted it deeply because they look hideous on the bookshelf when they're like that, and I spent a lot of time like trying to fix them, and they look better now, but I don't. And that's another reason I love the floppy fantasy, is that you can fold it over and read it without it looking hideous later, if that makes sense. So I don't crack spines, but I get why people do, especially people who like their books to look lived in. Standalone versus series. I usually prefer standalone, especially if the series isn't finished yet. For example, I knew Divine Rivals was going to be duology, but I knew the duology was coming out soon, so that didn't bother me. I did not know Assistant to the Villain was not a standalone, and I probably would have put off reading it until the next one came out, except that I got the red sprayed edges. So I don't mind a series that's not finished if it's like romance, like the Chestnut Spring series. I read it when there were 3 books, and so there's not really like a plot or a cliffhanger that I can't stop thinking about. But usually I prefer a standalone, I prefer a self-contained book. It also helps that I almost exclusively read romance and like mystery, so there aren't a lot of series that I get into, but I did just buy and am like 75% of the way through Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is going to be a trilogy. But all the books are out, except one is hardcover, so that's a problem. I dog ear my books. I highlight and I tab a lot unless they're sprayed edges. And I don't dog ear sprayed edges either because that looks ugly. But I do dog ear like my favorite parts. Like if there's a line that I'm like, I'm going to come back to that, I don't just tab it, I dog ear it. And I like that lived in look. I don't mind it. My next opinion is about trigger warnings in books. I know there's been a lot of discussion about it, again, especially with Colleen Hoover. I saw somewhere someone say that she said that she doesn't like trigger warnings because they spoil the book. Me personally as a consumer, I don't read trigger warnings. I'll say it that way. A lot of books that I've read might have trigger warnings in the beginning and I don't really read them. Just because nothing really triggers me that much, I guess, if that makes sense. And if it does, I just stop reading. I've never had a point where it's like caught me so off guard that I've been like upset by it. So I don't read them. Occasionally I'll skim them, especially if it's like a Kindle book or something. But I just skip ahead. Like I don't like torture scenes in books, but I don't look at the trigger warnings. I just kind of say, they're like, oh, we're going to torture. And I'm like, great, let me skim that real quick. So trigger warnings, I think you can put them there because people like me who like don't read them or like there's going to be a spoiler for some reason, just skip them. You know, you don't have to read them. So, and my last opinion is my very strong Harry Potter opinion that Ron and Hermione do not work together. They do not work together. Ron is the worst. He is the worst ever. Maybe I should do a whole video about who Hermione could have been paired with, because my thought is either Harry, Draco, or George. All right? George would have been so good. Either of the twins, but, you know, I'm giving her a longer lasting relationship with George. Just the way that the twins treat her in the books, like there's this scene where they're like, we've kind of been not pranking people because we know people have been studying and we didn't want to disrupt that. And they like nod at Hermione like respectfully. And she's like, wow, so thoughtful. And in the movies, that scene where they're going to try and go into the Goblet of Fire age ring.
Ready, Fred? Ready, George.
And she's like, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
And they go and sip. Oh, it's too cute. That's too cute. Harry, it feels like they were leading up to that the whole time. Just like how close they were and how Ron was terrible to Hermione and Harry was the one who would like be friends with both of them when they were fighting. And the Draco thing was just perfectly set up for a Romeo and Juliet situation. I think it was a wasted plot line. So those are some of my book opinions. I hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow.